Hey guys, it's Kaylin here at Full Purpose and Heart. So you're planning a trip to Southern California to go to Disneyland, and you're probably scouring the internet for all kinds of good tips and tricks of how you can maneuver and navigate through the park successfully. Now I'm gonna tell you there's hordes of information that you can get. YouTube channels who will give you tips and blogs that will give you tips, all kinds of stuff. So I'm just adding my little 2 cents to the mix here so that you can have a good array of things that people have asked me and just kind of good information of how you can navigate Disneyland successfully. So here we go. Okay, so my friends, Disneyland is a really fantastic vacation, but can be intimidating for people who have not been enough times. Maybe they've been in their childhood or they haven't been before at all. And especially if you're going to be taking young children with you, it can be a little bit intimidating. Let me share with you my credentials. I feel like sometimes we put more value on people who have good credentials, right? Anyway, so I've been to Disneyland a bazillion times, both when I was a child, and then I worked for the Walt Disney Company in 2003, and then I also lived in Southern California and had an annual pass and went multiple times every week because I have always loved Disneyland. So I got to know the parks really well. And then to capstone all of that, my husband worked for Disneyland for about 4 years. And so we, obviously went all the time, and he had lots of insider tips and tricks that he shared with me and with those people that were visiting with us. That's where my information comes from, is from years of experience traveling to the park as a local resident, as well as working in the parks when I worked there in 2003. Now, of course, times change, and it's been more than a decade since I worked there. So kind of take it as it will, but these are just a couple of tips, and I'm going to try to keep it short because I tend to kind of ramble on when it's Disneyland and vacationing and all that good stuff, okay? So my first tip, I have 5, plus maybe like a couple kind of thrown in there. Okay, so my first tip may sound very strange to some of you, but I'm gonna share it because the last time we were in Disneyland, we were socializing in line with somebody who was from Australia. They were traveling by themselves and had never been to the parks before, and they only had a 1-day ticket for the day, and he ended up going to California Adventure when he wanted to go to Disneyland, and he just said, I got to the center part, I got confused, and now here I am, and I can't, switch my park pass or anything like that. So let me just tell you that if you're wanting to go to Disneyland, Disneyland is on the north side of the plaza when you get into the plaza. Okay? Nothing like a good interruption. Anyway, so Disneyland is on the north side of the plaza. Now, I'll show a picture here. This is what the front entrance park to Disneyland looks like. Depending on which season you go, they'll have little decorations on the top of the kiosks, but just know that Disneyland is the north side of the park. California Adventure is the south side of that entry plaza after you go through the bag check. Okay, it might sound very simple for some of you and be like, well, obviously I'm going to know which side of Disneyland, but in case you don't, now you can be aware there's a train running and you can kind of see the train station. So now you know. The other side is California Adventure, which is a whole separate ballpark and a whole new video I'll have to do another day. Okay, so the next tip is, once you enter the park, some people can be overwhelmed with, there's a lot of things to choose from, and I'm not really sure how to navigate this park well. So I'll tell you what my family always does. When my husband worked for the park, he learned, there was lots of studies done by Disneyland, and they've learned that the majority of people who, when they first enter the park, like to go to the right side of the park, which is Tomorrowland or towards the Matterhorn, and the second large group of people will go into Fantasyland. The fewest number of people go towards the left side of the park, which is going to be your Frontierland and Adventureland sides of the park. So when my family goes, we always travel left, and that's to the Adventureland and Frontierland sides of the park. Let me give you just a really short rundown of how the beginning of our day in Disneyland goes every single time that we go. And it's just tradition for us, mostly, but also because it really works. It helps you get through most of those rides quickly before lunchtime even, so that you have the rest of your day to travel through Tomorrowland and Fantasyland, and even back through Toontown if you choose to go that far back. And sometimes those lands take the most amount of time, kind of depending on the volume and capacity of the park in the day that you travel. So this is kind of how a typical morning will run for us on days that we go to Disneyland. When we enter the park, we go to Adventureland. My husband will stop by the Fast Pass kiosk for Indiana Jones and pick up as many fast passes for people who would like to ride that ride. Typically those fast passes are within 20 to 30 minutes out. So we grab one of those fast passes. We then continue forward and we will ride Pirates of the Caribbean, and then we'll go over and we will ride Haunted Mansion. Then my husband will take the exit from Haunted Mansion and hop over to the Fast Pass kiosk for Splash Mountain and pick up those fast passes. When you get a fast pass, it'll tell you the hour time that you can return, and then on the bottom in kind of fine print, if you will, it will say a time frame that you can get a second fast pass. And because your Indiana Jones fast pass will be within 20 or 30 minutes from the time you got it, then the opening for a second fast pass will usually hit by the time you get over to Splash Mountain. So my husband will then get those Splash Mountain fast passes for later on in the day. We'll then backtrack, and usually by then it's time for us to ride Indiana Jones. Anyone who doesn't want to ride Indiana Jones will go right next door to the Jungle Cruise. Lots of times, most of the party will go to Indiana Jones, and some of us will stick back with the younger kids and sometimes do the Tarzan Treehouse, which is right there. And then all of us will go to the Jungle Cruise when we feel like it. So that's that's basically the bulk of that side of the park. When we finish with all of that kind of good stuff, depending on when our Splash Mountain fast passes are, we will hop over and do the Thunder Mountain Railroad, which their line can sometimes be long and sometimes be short, kind of depending on the capacity that day. But we'll ride that ride and then hop back and do Splash Mountain. By now, the sun is up and it's warm, so if you get really wet during Splash Mountain, you're not going to be dealing with cold kids or cold parents or whatever, and you can just enjoy the afternoon and kind of a cooled off moment. If you have young children that cannot ride Splash Mountain, right across is the Winnie the Pooh Bear ride, and that's kind of a fun whatever ride for little kids. So, and for big kids too. Anyway, so that's just a quick rundown on how the morning of our Disneyland trip almost always goes, mostly by tradition, but also because that side of the park is really light in the mornings, so you can kind of enjoy that aspect of the park of not feeling like you're crammed with a lot of people. So anyway, that's really great. If you're wondering like what seasons or what times to go, the best advice and the quickest advice that my husband and I always give our friends is to try to avoid seasons when school is out. Sometimes that's hard to do because if you have older kids that are in school, pulling them out of school is difficult to do because of homework assignments and things that they will miss, and that's understandable. But just as an overall tip, spring breaks, Christmas breaks, fall breaks, summer are typically really busy times in the parks. We like to go September and early October. February and early March are usually pretty light seasons. So January is also really good. December is nice as long as you don't go anywhere near Christmas, and you get kind of that Christmas flow, although they do decorate for Christmas at the beginning of November. So if you're looking for that Christmas spirit in Disneyland, I would highly recommend you to avoid the 2 weeks of Christmas, like the week before and the week after for sure. Go early December, and then you can try to hit those holiday seasons in Disneyland. Okay? Wow, that was a lot longer than I wanted it to be. I apologize for the length of this movie in advance. Okay, the second tip, I call these the lemmings. This is a tip that hopefully you will probably notice and hopefully you'll be able to utilize while you're in Disneyland. As human beings, we tend to just follow the crowd, and especially when you're in a place that you're not familiar with, you'll just assume everybody else knows what they're doing and line up behind them. It is also very customary and polite to line up when you're going on Disneyland rides or whatever. You always want to queue up, and that's great. I'm not, of course you want to get in your queue. So my son here likes to talk about Disneyland too. That's why he keeps peeking in on this side there. So anyway, okay, I'll try and cover him with my head so you're not distracted. Anyway, okay, so lemmings. The thing about Disneyland Park, and here is the tip. Disneyland cast members and Disneyland in general is really good at making sure that the guests go exactly where they want them to go. And it is very rare that you will find a queue or a line that is open where people should not be walking through, okay? Lots of times on many different rides, there are 2 lines that show up sometime in the middle of the queue. I'm going to use the Jungle Cruise as my example. Another interruption, I apologize. So I'm talking about the Jungle Cruise. It's a big, large queue when you first get in, and you just kind of line up with your party. On days when the park is a little bit busy, when you get a little ways into the queue, you're gonna make a corner and then you're gonna go up some stairs. When you get to the top of the stairs, the line splits and there's 2 separate lines. Now, lots of times people will all line up into one of those lines. Most of the time, the thought process is, oh, this line is probably for fast passes. It's like that everywhere in the park. Also, when you go over to the Small World, it has kind of a similar lineup. So this is the tip. This is where I'm going. If the line is for a fast pass holder, there will be a cast member there for sure, okay? They're not gonna have people line up in an area that's unclear and then be like, oh no, these are for fast passes, you have to go to the back of the line. If you're a little nervous, you send a scout that kind of like goes through and says, oh yeah, this is clear, you just do it, and then you jump in the line. I'm telling you, everyone's gonna look at you ugly in the face and be like, well, what are you doing cutting line? And you just have to be like, I know what I'm doing, there's 2 lines, calm down, you little lemming, because you didn't realize that that's what's happening. Okay, when my husband and family when we all went over to Disneyland this last time, the Jungle Cruise was just like this. We got to the top of the stairs, everyone was lining up on the right side. We went into the left side because nobody was there, and we skipped all the way down the stairs to almost to the boat. And everyone was like, well, what are you doing? Do you have family that's up there? And we're like, no, there's 2 lines. We're just in the line. So anyway, so that's my tip. Hopefully it's not too confusing with the interruption in the middle, but the tip is, in general, keep your eyes open and don't just follow the crowd when it comes to lining up. A lot of times, if there's not a cast member there, then you can get in the line. And if nobody else is in it, then that's a bonus for you. Sometimes there's obviously gonna be lots of people in it, and then it's just a matter of choosing the right or the left. That's just comes with the territory. It comes with experience. I don't have time to go through every attraction and let you know which side of the line is shorter based on how many boats go through and how the curves happen and all that kind of stuff. There is a method to the madness, yes, but I don't have time to go through every attraction and let you know which side of the line is typically the best choice, even though there is. So maybe in another movie someday, a video. I don't know why I call these movies. Okay, so tip number 3, I think we're on. Okay, so my tip number 3 is a general tip for financially enjoying Disneyland. And it's going to kind of be against probably what a lot of people have given tips on. There's a plethora of resources of people who are going to teach you how to do Disneyland cheap and how to, save your buck and enjoy it. You pack in your food and you get the tickets from a discount ticket vendor and all of these different things. Okay, this is my tip, and it goes against all of those things, but my tip is plan to spend money when you go to Disneyland. I heard somebody once say that Disneyland is the rich man's vacation, and it's really true. Poor people cannot afford to go to Disneyland. It's just too expensive. Just to get in the park is several $100s for a whole family to get in. And then you have food on top of that, and you have souvenirs if you want to buy souvenirs. And yes, can you go to Disneyland and not spend money on food and souvenirs and treats and all that stuff? Of course you can. But for me, a vacation or a trip to Disneyland includes souvenirs for my kids, buying the churro, buying the Frosty, buying the whatever I feel like eating when I want to eat it, enjoying a meal at the restaurants, the quick service restaurants, and sometimes even as much as one of the sit-down restaurants at like the Blue Bayou or something. So, and yes, it all costs money, and it's going to be an expensive vacation. In that sense, plan on spending it. I usually plan between $500 to $1,000 extra. Do I spend that much money? No, I don't. But I just plan on it. This is what it's going to cost, because I don't want to pack in all of my food. I don't want to have to tell my kids, no, you can't have the glow stick or the churro or whatever. Like, I like to buy and enjoy a good time at Disneyland. And because of this mentality, I don't stress about the fact that I go into the restaurant and it's going to cost me $11 to have one meal. Now I'm going to have to buy 3 because there's me and my husband and my adult child or whatever. Like, I have 2 small young children, so we do bring in fruit snacks and granola bars and, you know, peanut butter cups or whatever, like those peanut butter balls. Anyway, yes, we do bring in snacks so that the kids can eat while we're standing in the line or watching the parade or whatever we're doing. But when it comes to meals, I do buy meals, and yeah, it costs money, and yeah, it's expensive. Kids meals I think are $6 right now for a small kids meal, which is about what you pay when you go to McDonald's or whatever. But adult meals can range anywhere from $11 to $15 for one adult meal. So just plan on spending money. Plan on about, I don't know, $30 a day for each adult and maybe $20 a day for each kid, and just plan on it. And then you'll enjoy your trip a lot more because you won't have to look at the price tag for the salad bowl and be like, really, you're gonna charge me that much for a salad bowl? And then not enjoy your vacation because you're so worried about how much money you're spending on food, okay? All right. My next tip is for water fountains. Bring in your own water bottles. It's always important that you need to drink lots of water, especially when it's a hot day in Disneyland. And the little tip for you, of course, there's water fountains all over that you can try and put your water bottle under and push the button and hope that, you know, the little trickle gets into your water bottle. But there are 2 places in Disneyland that's like a water bottle fountain. With a tall spigot that goes under, so you can just put your water bottle straight up and down and then push the lever and the water will fill. The first one is in Frontierland, and it's in the dining area for the restaurant called Rancho del Zocalo. So you have the Thunder Mountain Railroad attraction is kind of right here. I'm trying to show you with my hands. Right here. And then right next to it is the dining area. So you'll go in where all of those tables are, not into the actual restaurant where the food service portion is, just in the dining area. And kind of off to the right side, there's a little cart with some water cups and then this little water spigot. And you can just go in and fill your water bottles up. Obviously be mindful of other people who are dining in the restaurant and want to get some water. Don't fill up 12 water bottles and just stand there. But anyway, so that's one place. It's really convenient. Fill up all your water bottles and you can have relatively cold. I'm not going to say it's ice water or whatever, but if you want ice, you can ask for ice. So anyway, so that's the first part. And the second water fountain is similar to it, and that's in Tomorrowland, and it's in the terrace of, I think it's called Tomorrowland Terrace. Anyway, so they have like the Star Wars defeat Emperor Zurg. No, that's not it. Defeat, who is that? Vader. Sorry. Defeat Darth Vader anyway, and the kids can go up and kind of use the force or whatever. So that's over here, and then they have the dining area, and then kind of against the wall on this side they have another one of those spigots. Okay, so I should show you a map and like point it to you so you can see it a little better. But anyway, so those are 2 water spouts as opposed to like a drinking fountain. There's lots of drinking fountains near all the restrooms, and those work just great. But if you want to refill your water bottle with ease and quickness, then those are 2 places that you can do that in Disneyland Park. Okay? So that's my other tip. 2 other quick things. I don't even know. I think I'm at 5 and 6 probably. So we'll give you a tip number 5 and then a freebie. So tip number 5 is my favorite place to eat dinner in the park. I think it's the best value. You get a really good variety of choices, and I think it tastes the best. And that's at Rancho del Zocalo in Frontierland. I think the ambiance is really nice. You can usually always find a table, and if you go kind of in an early dinner hour and the park's not super crazy, I mean, obviously it depends on the park busyness that day. But yeah, they have really good prices. They have it's a Mexican fare, so they have, tacos and burritos and a taco salad and enchiladas. And then they also have a beverage, where I have been told that you can refill your soda glass if you dine in the restaurant. So I don't know, I haven't seen it written anywhere, but I have done it myself. We have asked cast members while we're there, can we refill our beverages? And we have been told yes. So you may want to ask when you're there just to double check that you're not breaking any rules, but we think it's the best value and the best tasting food. So that would be my tip for a meal when you're there. Okay, my last tip. on this end of my lengthy video here, is for preparation before you go to the park. And this is really the one tip that I share with all of my friends who are like, well, tell me something, and I don't have a lot of time to just like spill a bunch of Disney knowledge on them. I will usually say to prepare your young children for going to Disneyland, to watch YouTube Disneyland attraction videos at home before you actually go. And in doing this, you're not going to surprise your young children with something that they're not ready for. Sometimes if you just go to the park and you're like, yay, this is so fun, let's ride Pirates of the Caribbean, they're unfamiliar with it, they don't know what to do, and then they see these life-size pirates, and it might kind of scare them or make them nervous. And now you feel frustrated as a parent because you put all of this money into getting them to Disneyland and having this fantastic Disneyland adventure. And now your kid doesn't want to ride any of the attractions because they're nervous about what they're going to see inside. So we like to have all of the Disneyland attractions on. You can basically watch anything on YouTube, and you can just experience the attractions multiple times, do a little homework, if you will, before you go to the park. So then when you go to get in the line for the Pirates, then your children will understand what's happening. Now, is this perfect across the board? No. My young daughter is 1.5. We've been watching Disneyland attraction videos basically since the day she was born. We do it as a pastime activity. Anyway, and when we went to the Haunted Mansion, she was still nervous about it. So it's not a cure-all pill. It's not going to save everything. But for your younger 3, 4, 5-year-old kids, then it's going to really help out in that unexpected thing that might happen if they just show up and they don't know what to expect. Sometimes that feeling can make kids nervous, and other times kids are fine with it. So you know your kids, and if you kind of give them a little taste of what they're going to experience, then they won't be unfamiliar with it, and you'll have a better experience overall. Okay? So that's kind of my blanket Disneyland experience. If I were a really great YouTuber, I would have given this video to you in Disneyland, but I'm just not there yet. I can't talk to a camera among a bunch of strangers. It's just not me yet, but maybe someday we'll get there. Anyway, if you have additional questions or more, you want more Disneyland tips, put it in the comments below. I'll read those, and then maybe we'll compile another kind of tips video. Again, I have been to Disneyland more times than you can count, hundreds of times, and so I know a lot about how to maneuver Disneyland. So if you do have a question and you're not sure where to go for it, or you haven't found that source yet that's telling you what you want to know, leave it in the comment box below and I'll be happy to share it with you. Anyway, hopefully you guys have a great Disneyland vacation if you're going in the near future, or if you're going in your fictitious future, which I feel I'm always planning for my fictitious future. You never know when you have to drop everything and go to Disneyland. Anyway, hopefully that time will come and you'll be able to experience the magic of Disney, because it really is one of my favorite places to visit. Anyway, have a great one, guys.